What's up, guys? Welcome back to Lick Branch Farms. In today's video, we are going to continue with the planting that we started in the cucumber video I just did with the zucchini and the squash and all that good stuff. Now, in the last video, you seen where I kind of pointed out that it was super wet down there in that bottom. We couldn't do anything about that, but we had to figure out how we could go ahead and get some stuff planted because it's a perfect opportunity to go ahead and get some of these plants in the ground. And what we're going to be working with is our squash and our zucchini. This is 2 trays of, I think, 8 of green zucchini that I've got ready to go in the ground. And as you can see, they're still just a little bit young, but they got a pretty decent root ball on them, and they're on their second true set of leaves. So, they'll be okay once we get them in there. And generally, I like to transplant on cloudy days. It's just less shock that it puts on the plant. When you try to transplant into hot sunny days, it's just a lot for that plant to try to take in. If you can do it on a cloudy day, a cloudy cool day, the better. And I'm hoping that we're past the frost and the freeze and all that good stuff. I mean, here we are mid-April and just before Good Friday, and we are I ain't gonna say behind, but I mean we're kind of pushed for time because I've got to get this squash and zucchini, this batch, out of the greenhouse into the ground so I can start my second batch, which is going to go down here. Right now I'm sitting on 6 50 cell trays of green zucchini. Did I say 6 or 8? I'm sitting on 8 trays, actually 2 different varieties. One is called Paycheck, which is a super variety. I always grow that one. It's a little pricey, but it's worth it because it just pumps out this green zucchini. And then the other one is Cash Machine, and it's the same way. Both of them have their good and bad, but for the most part in the early season, both of them will serve you well. They'll do really good. All right, nothing high tech about this, super simple. And I'm gonna go ahead and give you the real fast course on how I pull my rows up. Basically, everything starts like you've seen that plot down here. And what I do is I run through with my rototiller and rototill the row, and then I turn back around and lift it, and I drive through the row. And that potentially just builds me a 30-inch bed. And you can see that's all that is. That is where I rototilled a row and then come back and drove through it and stay in the same tire tracks. And that's just, I repeat the process all the way down, and it builds a perfect 30-inch bed. So what we don't want to do is crowd this zucchini. We don't want to put it under pressure where it has to compete with another plant for nutrients and water and all that good stuff. And plus, we want to give them a little bit of space so they can breathe more safe. You can get air in between the plants. That keeps the powdery mildew down. I had planted squash and zucchini on double rows, on a 100-foot row, double rows, and I would go foot apart all the way down through there. And it built a pretty decent row, but it built a dense, really, really dense row. And I'm trying to keep from doing that this year for ease of picking, plus for disease pressure and all that stuff. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go down through here, and you can see I took my dibble stick. This is what I call my dibble stick. And I laid the tape down through here, and all I do is go start at the 2-foot mark, and I go down through here, and I dibble it every 2 foot. And that's basically the process. And I wiggle it just a little bit to wind the hole up because those are pretty wide plugs. As you can see, let's stick one in here right quick so I can get it pop out. Now, see, they're popping out really easy, so the roots are forming pretty good. So basically what we're going to do is stick it right here, and we're going to push it down and seed it into the bottom of that hole. And one thing I tell a lot of people is don't leave air. The hole that you push, dibble in for your plant, don't leave air in the bottom of it. 2 things. It can capture a lot of water, and your roots will sit there and it'll just rot them. I mean, if the water, your soil doesn't drain very well, that puddle will just sit up under there and it'll rot them. 2, if there's air down there, you run the risk of air pruning your roots, so your roots won't grow down. They may grow out, but they won't grow down. And in turn, it could kill your plant. So really, that's one of 50 that's going to be in this row. So I've got 6 100-foot rows, 600 row feet. If you do the math, that potentially is going to be 300 plants that's going to be in this just a little area right here. I have 200, I think, 200 or 250 of the Paycheck variety, and then I have the same amount of the Cash Machine. So really, this whole plot is going to be green zucchini. All of it's going to be green, and then we'll switch over when we start pulling rows up into that. We'll finish up the zucchini, and then we'll switch over to Grand Prize, which is the yellow straight neck squash. And if we don't have enough rows there, then we'll continue down there once we get a chance. But getting the green zucchini and getting the yellow squash started is a step in the right direction. That's one of the things we like to have on the table when we get cucumbers, when we get tomatoes and all that good stuff. That's what people look forward to. When they start seeing those colors, those greens, those yellows, those reds, that's when they're really going to be flocking to those farmers markets. You know, I'm getting ready to put these plants in the ground. I did get some good news this week. I got an email from the Agriculture Extension in Union County, which is 2 counties over from us towards Charlotte. And they have accepted us into their Saturday market. I looked online. It looks like, you know, it is a pretty well put together market, and looked like they had, you know, some really good vendors. And we've been accepted to go to that market on Saturdays, and we've also been accepted into their food hub. They have a hub to where they take orders, you know, from locals and, you know, state employees and all that good stuff during the week, and then deliver on Friday. So that's just 2 more outlets that we can move our produce through during the season. Enough of me yapping, so I'm going to put this thing down, and we're going to get some of this zucchini put in the ground and see how many we can get done here in the next little bit. I'm hoping to have both sides done this afternoon. That way I can finish up with the mulch. I've got cherry tomatoes and all I got to plant in these tunnels. I can get all that stuff done tomorrow if I can finish this up today. All right, guys, so we got that 300 plants behind us. That's 300 green zucchini, a mixture of paycheck and cash machine on 6 100-foot rows. So now we're going to head on down to this part, the lower end, and we're going to get started on this. Now I still got to pull the rows up and all that, but I'm thinking that we're still going to have enough room to get 6 100-foot rows in here. And we're going to start this off with either 2 or 3 rows of grand prize, depending on how many we can fit in. And then we'll finish it off with a variety of patty pan. I've got 3. I've got Sunburst, I've got Moonbeam, and I got Benning's Green Tint, which it'll probably take a little bit longer for the green tint because it takes its sweet time about germinating. It's a good patty pan. I love it, especially on the grill, but it takes its sweet time about germinating. But when it does, it'll put off a pretty good amount of squash. But that will finish off this area up here. So we'll have 6 100-foot rows of green zucchini, 6 rows of red potato, red New Orleans, and then 6 rows with a mixture of yellow crookneck and patty pan to finish all this off. Now, once the potatoes come up, which will probably be June-ish, then we will probably come back with another planting of zucchini or something like that. But, you know, normally we can get, you know, 3, 4, 5 good pickings off of zucchini before the borers get us, or vine borers or squash bugs, and then we have to move on to something else. That's why we rotate so much squash in and out. Now this variety here, it'll be okay until, you know, the humidity sets in and the bug pressure. But what we'll do is, you know, when this matures, we harvest off of it, terminate it, we'll put a fresh planting in. By that time, something down here will be, you know, already in production, so we won't miss a lick. It'll just boom, pick up from there and move on, and then we can get another plant in here. Matter of fact, as soon as I get this done and get the irrigation set up for all of this stuff, I'm going to restart all of this, so we got plants to go in the bottom down here in the next few weeks. It doesn't take squash long to germinate. These plants were started on the 27th of March, and I think the day is the 13th, you know, April the 13th. So inside of 2-3 weeks, you can have plants ready to go in the ground. Guys, I'm back down here at the squash and zucchini field that we were putting in yesterday, and I still like 3 rows to finish this up, but we got very lucky, very lucky. I knew the weather was going to get down to 40, 41 last night, just going by what, you know, the prediction was or what the forecast was, but it didn't. And I'm going to put a screenshot, let me get you out the sun. I'm going to put a screenshot up to what the actual temperature got down to last night here. And I am very, very surprised that these plants still look as good as they do. When I walked out the door this morning, there was a thick layer of frost on the windshield, and my heart sank. And me and Betsy both jumped in the side by side and run down here real quick, and to our surprise, everything still looks good. Even after 35 degrees, these plants look like they went through it with no problem. I can't explain it. I don't know why, but the whole field looks great. I don't see anything with any issue. I mean, for whatever reason, I'm glad, really, because I did not want to have to start this squash over again. In the back of my mind last night, I was thinking, that probably wasn't a great idea to put those things in the ground. But, when you garden, you're constantly second-guessing yourself about a lot of things. And usually, you're right when you do that, but it's being overly cautious, I guess, because you've got so much hard work and time put into things. But it's a gamble. It's always a gamble, especially in the springtime, especially in this region, because, like I said, we probably still going to get another cold snap. And believe it or not, all the old timers used to tell me, don't put anything like squash, zucchini, cucumbers, tomatoes, or anything like that in the ground till after the full moon in April. And, they've done this a lot longer than I have. And last night would have been the full moon in April. So, now go figure. All right, guys, so I got you up here where you can see actually the 6 rows. These 3 on this side, excuse me, there's 4 rows of grand prize, which is a yellow straight neck squash, and then there's 2 rows on this side that is moonbeam patty pan squash. And I'm gonna walk to the end of the row to kind of give you guys an idea of just how many plants is out here. I'm glad this is over with. My knees are killing me. All that. I got the same thing over here where the green zucchini is. There's 6 rows. Plants 2 feet apart. There's 50 plants in each row. That's a total of 300 green zucchini plants in this plot here. Now, I am going to start with overhead irrigation, which is the risers that you see leaning up against the tunnel over there. I'm going to start with those guys, but eventually we will have drip irrigation on these. And with zucchini and squash and things of that nature, it just makes sense because you don't want to kind of encourage powdery mildew, which comes from moisture on the leaves, and it just stays there, gets damp, causes mildew. That's, how it happens. And drip irrigation is the best way to keep that from happening. So what we're going to do today is probably spend the rest of the day setting up these risers to put overhead irrigation on these guys, just so we can keep them water. And then throughout the week, I'll work on pulling the drip lines and getting the main line out here. I kind of want to do it, not just throw something in here that works. I want to put something together that's going to be not so much permanent, but that I can take up, put a new crop in, pull right back out, and just carry on throughout the season. Because like I said in a video prior to this, here I don't care how much you run your drip irrigation, it seems like you can't put enough water on the ground during some times of the year. Now, like right now, yeah, it'd be perfectly fine, but August, July, August, September, it is very hard to water with drip irrigation unless you got multiple lines out. And what you'll see is that we will put down drip irrigation, but we'll leave the overhead just for them days that get super hot and we have to irrigate multiple times during the day. We can hit them with them overheads to keep them cool, to keep the plants cool, and hope that it doesn't kind of encourage disease. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do, no matter what. But for right now, we're going to put up these risers. That's probably what I'm going to spend the rest of the day doing. Put the risers up, go ahead and irrigate everything pretty good. The ground's pretty wet, pretty damp. It's manageable, but it's not going to take very long with this wind blowing like it is for it to dry this soil out really quick. And it's getting about that time of year where I need to put my timers on. I need to set everything to be automated the way I don't have to worry about irrigating every day. Everything's growing really good now. And, you know, we got some pretty good temperatures coming up to where I can encourage these things to grow really quick. And we can go ahead and get some fruit on these rascals. So throughout the week, we're going to work on the bottom end down there, turning that soil over, letting it dry out, you know, keep turning it until we get it to where we can plant it. I got tomatoes that need to go out. I got cucumbers that need to go out. Got peppers that need to go out. Eggplants that need to go out. And that is the only place I've got to plant it. So we've got to get that dried out pretty quick. Once I can get one plot done, you know, it'll move pretty quick, you know, with the planting part. But if anybody's got any leads to a water wheel transplanter, leave it in the comment section below, because like I said, I'm getting too old for this crawling around on my knees. I need to get something that I can roll on with this pretty good. I can put Betsy driving tractor. I'll sit on that rascal and plant all day long. Alright guys, so I'm going to shut up and get off of here and get busy putting this irrigation together. But like I said before, if you have not subscribed to our channel, reach over here in this right hand corner and click that subscribe button. And click the bell notification so you get notified every time we put out a video. Just getting this squash and zucchini in the ground is a huge milestone for us. You know, it just marks the start of really pumping out the vegetables to go to market with now. Squash and zucchini is one of our biggest sellers, along with cucumbers and tomatoes. So this is a huge, you know, step forward for our market this season. And like I said, we dodged the bullet today. You can believe that, because 35 degrees normally, all of this would have been gone. And that's, you know, not only time consuming, but you know, it gets into your profits, because this will be the second crop of squash and zucchini. I lost the first crop because it was on those racks out there and we had a rogue frost. But, you know, this time it would have been on me, because I sat there back and forth yesterday trying to figure if I needed to put this stuff in the ground. And now I'm glad I did, because now, I mean, it's straightforward. We don't have to worry about this anymore. And if we do, if it gets within 5 degrees of a frost, I will put frost blankets down this time. I'm not going to play with that anymore. So, yeah, glad it ended as well as it did. But guys, if you have not subscribed to our channel, reach over here in this right hand corner and click that subscribe button and click the bell notification so you get notified every time we put out a video. As always guys, we appreciate you stopping by. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.